Welcome everybody to our first concurrent session, Stewarding Your Professional Growth with Inspiration and Intentionality with Charlotte Cowden and Jennifer Mora. My name's Julia Nelson. I'll be the behind the scenes moderator for today's session. So with that, I'm happy to turn it over to our presenters, Charlotte and Jennifer. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you. So welcome everyone to our panel, Stewarding Your Professional Growth with Inspiration and Intentionality. We'd like to get started off with just a quick poll to have a sense of who's with us here today. So Julia's going to launch the poll now. All right, so have you attended a NOW conference before? Right. Trickling in, trickling in. Okay, so it looks like it's about, Julia, can you share the results? Let's see. All right, so it looks like we have 55% newbies, 45% returning NOW participants. So this is a great mix of people. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited that you're here, and we appreciate you taking this time and spending it with us. We'd like to ask people to just really be present and to appreciate our time together. We encourage you as much as you can in this format, this new Zoom conference format, to be bold, to share, to commit to learning and make connections with others in the group. And we really want our time together to be positive and fun. And so I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to start with introductions.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It is my pleasure and honor to be here with you. I'd like to share more about my experience at UC Berkeley. I've been on campus since 2007 when I started my fundraising career at the Cal Alumni Association. I joined the Student Experience and Diversity team at University Development and Alumni Relations, that is a mouthful, in 2018. As a first-generation college student who attended UCLA, this role spoke to me and aligned with my personal values and professional aspirations. In my role as Director of Development, I work with alumni and friends on their philanthropy in support of Cal students. I am humbled and inspired on a daily basis to work at UC Berkeley and advocate for Cal students. And I'm going to pass it back to Charlotte to introduce herself.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I have a PhD from Cal, and I moved out of academia and into administration, which was a really amazing and fortunate move for me. I've been a staffer for over 8 years in a variety of external relations and administrative roles. I've worked in schools and research units, and now I'm also in university development and alumni relations, and I have the privilege of supporting a really amazing group of frontline fundraisers who secure transformational gifts to UC Berkeley. So before we get into kind of the meat of the presentation, Jennifer and I wanted to just talk very briefly about our inspiration and why we wanted to spend this time with you today. So why give this presentation at the NOW conference? I am a super, super proud Cal staffer. I love working at Cal, and one of the best things is that we have truly amazing colleagues like Jennifer and like all of you on the call today. Jennifer and I were on the Student Experience and Diversity team together, and we did not know each other very well. And we had the good fortune of being in a UC Extension class together. And it was a really amazing opportunity to get to know each other better and to learn from each other and grow. And we took a lot of the lessons that we had in the class and we built on them in real life. And so we're here today because we wanted to share how taking small steps and setting goals together inspired us to step out of our comfort zones, appreciate each other, recognize our talents and strengths, and grow. And I think one of the things we also really want to talk about is how Berkeley staff are really extraordinary in what we do every day. And as a staff, there's a lot of power and potential that we can tap into together. And I'm going to turn it to Jennifer to share a little bit more about her inspiration for the presentation.
Thanks, Charlotte. I'd like to share why I am inspired and motivated to partner with Charlotte on this session. First, self-improvement and career growth are a priority for me. Professional development and job opportunities at UC Berkeley were not obvious to me. Second, by establishing an accountability partnership with Charlotte, I've learned a great deal about myself, including how to leverage opportunities for my career growth. During our presentation, we will share how to establish and leverage your own accountability partnership and provide you with tips and tools to help you steward your growth as a professional at Berkeley. Our goal is that you come away from this session feeling inspired to celebrate your achievements and motivated to lift up your successes. We all play an important role at UC Berkeley. Our presentation is about leaning into your position and recognizing that you are doing more than just your job. You have a vital role and make significant contributions to UC Berkeley on a daily basis. Our session is designed to inspire you to lean into where you are today, lift each other up, and celebrate your contributions to your team, department, and UC Berkeley. For our time together, we will outline 3 objectives for our presentation. We will share tips to develop a manageable action plan. We recognize that Charlotte and I started our accountability partnership before shelter in place. So we will provide you with tangible action steps that can be taken while working from home. And then we will wrap up our presentation by reviewing key takeaways and leaving time for your questions. So let's get started.
All right, so Jennifer said we have 3 objectives. So we really designed this presentation to empower you to start where you are. We want you to feel empowered and excited and hopefully provide some tools to facilitate your career growth in your current role. So we have a couple things to share with you, including sound bites. And then we really want to demonstrate the advantage of leaning into your personal and professional networks. So we're going to kick it off with your action plan.
Thank you, Charlotte. Before we move on, I do want to acknowledge that we've received all your messages about the raffle form. It looks like it's fixed, so thank you everyone for your feedback and your patience. So please fill it out. And if you have any questions during our presentation, please put them in chat. So thank you again. So let's start with your action plan. Your action plan is a tool designed to empower you to start from where you are with achievable actions. Everyone attending this session can grow in their current role with this 4-part action plan. The 4 elements of the action plan are identify an accountability partner. I said at the beginning, Charlotte is mine. Build your empowerment plan, practice sound bites, and grow your network. This action plan is intended to empower and inspire you to take action now. This is about starting from where you are today. One of my favorite quotes from a mentor is bloom where you are planted. I'm going to spend the next several minutes on the first 2 elements of your action plan. The first step is to identify an accountability partner. An accountability partner is an individual you can work with on implementing your action plan. Together, you establish an accountability partnership where you both agree to coach each other and provide feedback on a regular basis. At the beginning of the session, I shared that Charlotte is my accountability partner. An accountability partner is typically a peer. The peer-to-peer relationship allows for coaching and honest feedback. It eliminates issues of hierarchy and competitiveness that can be associated with a manager or a mentor-mentee relationship. Selecting an accountability partner who is a peer provides space for authenticity and vulnerability. So how do you identify your accountability partner? As Charlotte said, we were on the same team, we happened to take the same class, but most importantly, it's really helpful to have similar work styles, and trust is a must. Look for someone who can hold up the mirror for you and reflect what they see in you. So we are going to do a quick poll again. Is there someone you can identify today as an accountability partner based on the general characteristics of peer, trustworthy, and similar work styles? And the poll is on its way. So it looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so we are going to come back to this question. So think about, as we're fixing the poll, please think about if there's someone that you work with that you could identify based on the characteristics of peer, trustworthy, and similar work styles. So I will share how many folks have identified someone in this couple of minutes, and I'm going to move on to, now that you've identified an accountability partner and you made the ask and the individual said yes, what happens next? So first, schedule regular check-ins. Charlotte and I met on a monthly basis for morning coffee, and I'm happy to share we are still meeting during shelter in place. In a few minutes, I will go over your empowerment plan. This is a perfect activity to review with your accountability partner. Charlotte and I shared our empowerment plan responses, and then we use them to plan actionable next steps in our professional development goals. Later in the session, Charlotte will share more about sound bites. Practicing sound bites with your accountability partner is another great way to leverage each other. We cannot say it enough. Lift each other up. Share your accomplishments and aspirations in your current role with your accountability partner. Brainstorm on what you can do to achieve your goals and celebrate each other. We cannot say it enough. We need to champion one another and lift each other up. Speaking of achieving goals, ask your accountability partner to help you prep for your upcoming Achieve conversation.
Okay.
So let's move on to the second element in your action plan, your empowerment plan. Your empowerment plan is intended to inspire you to take intentional action. This step is critical because it's about recognizing your strengths, values, contributions, and taking steps to grow and bloom where you are planted. So we are placing a link in the chat to your empowerment plan template. It consists of 3 sections: recognize your knowledge, be the leader you want to follow, take action, and grow. We encourage you to complete the empowerment plan and review it with your accountability partner. This is one of the first activities you can do together. So speaking of activities, let's move into one. We'd like you to take a minute to complete the first question in the Recognize Your Knowledge section. I'm looking for a few volunteers at the end of the time to chat their responses to me, and I will share them anonymously. So let's get started on our first exercise. Thank you, everyone who shared their responses. There are so many great ones to choose from. So I'm going to randomly share a few. I have writing, patience, empathy, de-escalation skills, see important connections for collaboration, policy knowledge, counsel. I'm going to excel at whiz and pivot tables, breaking down tasks, creating agendas, keeping people accountability. This is incredible. I love seeing all these positive skills and contributions that you make to Berkeley. So thank you, everyone, for participating. And I believe it's time to pass it to Charlotte already.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks everybody for sharing your amazing skills. It's just really wonderful to see what everybody's doing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about sound bites. Sound bites are a brief and catchy way to share good news and your accomplishments. Let's see here. So sound bites help you shape your personal brand. And I do want to call out for those of us who may be uncomfortable thinking about branding ourselves. You can think about it as a way to increase your visibility, or think about, what do you want people to know about you? What do you want your peers and your colleagues and leadership in your department to know about you and to think about you? Sound bites also allow you to share an accomplishment or information with your peers or colleagues. And something really important to remember is that our peers and colleagues benefit when we share information and our accomplishments with them. Other great news, sound bites are both low risk and brief. So we're just taking advantage of a very short snippet of time to let people know what you're doing. Again, what you've accomplished in a group project, you can be lifting up work that you've done with others. It doesn't always have to be all about you, sharing knowledge and expertise. And then even more good news, you can use the same soundbite with different people, because they're not going to know that you already used it with someone else. So this is supposed to be super easy, super low pressure. And I want to get a little bit into the deeper kind of why of doing this. One of the things that we've been talking about a lot and we really want to lift up is building a culture of appreciation and positivity for the work that we're doing. Finding space in this giant institution to connect with others and to recognize and lift up our contributions and what we're doing. Berkeley staff are really incredible, and what we're doing is worthy of recognition. We're all part of something larger, and it's nice to know what our peers are doing. I would certainly welcome my peers sharing their sound bites with me, because you're more in the know, you feel more connected, you're all lifting each other up. And then super important, it's a great way to practice advocating for yourself regularly, and it's something that we can practice and build into a practice and build into our work culture. So, but I know there's still some hesitation. Is it a humble brag? The answer is no. So you're not braggy. And I do want to kind of take a little bit of time to draw a distinction between the humble brag versus the soundbite. So I thought about this a lot, and my distinction is that a humble brag is really something that you're doing to kind of be flashy and draw attention to yourself. It's something that's generally, you're sharing something that's not very substantial, or maybe is more superficial, and it's about showing off. And a soundbite, in contrast, is elevating and lifting up something that you're proud of, a success that you've earned with your team, showcasing something that you've produced. And it's really about something of substance and something concrete that you have done, and you've earned it. So I'm putting a few examples up, but before we get into the specifics of the examples, I do want to talk a little bit about the when, because the when of a pre-shelter-in-place world is very different than the when of now. So in the olden times, when we would share a soundbite, it would kind of be, you run into someone in the kitchen and your lunch is in the microwave and you're standing there awkwardly. You know, normally you would be, I would normally be talking about, oh, I just made this new recipe, or, you know, it's cold outside. Instead, you can just use this opportunity to kind of shift the conversation a little bit and just talk about, lift up something that you've done instead. And it's still filling the same amount of time, a very brief amount of time, but it's just a way to kind of shift a little bit in what would normally be just kind of office blah, 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 to talk a little bit about work, just in a positive, neutral way. So shelter in place obviously is a really different environment, and that's not to say you can't do it, you still can. So on a Zoom call before other people join is a great way to drop in a soundbite. Also, if you have a one-on-one with someone, a peer, manager, someone else in your department, you can also drop in a soundbite over email. Might be awkward, try it, see if it works, but this is something to just kind of think about. It's more about cultivating this practice. It's not about getting it perfect. And so some of the examples that we have, I completed a LinkedIn learning training, or I took a UC extension class about something. My team was able to pivot an in-person event to a very well-attended Zoom event. Recently helped my department complete a grant audit. We wrapped up fiscal close successfully, and my team demonstrated a lot of resilience. But more than that, I didn't go on and on because this is sort of tailored to you, but part of it also is kind of adding the why after this part. So, you know, for example, my team was able to pivot an in-person event to a very well-attended Zoom event. And there were more people than ever, or people from the West Coast came with people from the East Coast, or I completed a LinkedIn learning training, and now I can use this skill to do X that I couldn't do before. So you have to add your own why, but this is an example of something that you could use to jumpstart a soundbite. Part of this it's about kind of lifting yourself up and building this culture of positivity, and these are really examples of your successes. And so I hope that these examples will highlight even more how this isn't a humble brag, how this is championing something that you've earned. You know, we are very sensitive to this notion that we're in shelter in place, and we do want to flag that it's kind of hard sometimes right now to feel like you're being successful and that you've accomplished something, and that's okay. It's more about building this in as a practice, and kind of, this is in some ways a great way to work on this now and think about things now that you want to lift up, and then keep them in your pocket or practice them now. So speaking of practice, we have another exercise. So it would be great if you can just think for a minute or two about a soundbite. And if you have one, you can drop it in chat. We'll keep them anonymous, and then we'll share them out with the group. Holy moly, you guys, I'm like blown away by the amazing things that you've shared. Let's see, I'm just gonna read through a bunch of them. Our e-newsletters have gone from a 10% open rate to consistently 25 to 30% open rate. Let's see, I recently worked with the College of Engineering to pivot digital scholarship and fellowship reporting to be fully, pivot scholarship and fellowship reporting to be fully digital. We collected videos from students and made group video to send to donors. Let me see here. There's so many of them. We held successful auditions for the Cheer and Dance virtual 2021 season and had judges from coast to coast, and it worked out well. My team works on getting people paid on time, and if they aren't paid on time, they affix their attention and energy to getting them paid as quickly as possible within the constraints of our systems. My team successfully completed strategic planning process and helped develop concrete goals for next semester. Oh, this is wonderful. I recently completed the UC Grow training, which helped me be a better manager. You guys are just like killing it. This is amazing. I'm like, there's so many of them. I can't read them all. And I'm just really inspired and actually very humbled to be sharing this space with all of you. There's more. So let me find the slides. We have another potential activity for you guys. I'm like still kind of like reconfiguring myself after all these amazing sound bites, like really amazing. But there's more for you guys to do. So now is the time to practice amplifying your network. We're proposing an optional activity, and we want you to take advantage of fellow staff for the amazing resources we all are and can be to each other. So we really want you to think about someone you've been meaning to reach out to and get to know. And we want to challenge you to reach out to that person, a peer, a leader, a role model, and ask them for coffee over the summer. And then if you are so inclined to close the loop, please email me and Jennifer, because we are invested and we want to know how it works out. So I know this can be a little bit daunting. So we have sort of a sample email. This is yours. You can take it. We have no ownership over this text. And so, for example, informational coffee. You can just, very casual. Dear Oski Bear, I recently attended a session at the Berkeley Now conference, and the presenters challenged us to grow our networks by connecting with fellow Cal staff. I'm reaching out to see if you'd be interested in a Zoom coffee. I'd love to learn about, and then here's your golden moment. The sky is the limit. You can ask this person, you know, within reason, what do you want to learn about from them? And put this in. And, you know, hear about your time at Cal. Can I schedule a 30-minute coffee on your BCal? Thank you, and your name. So just like the sound bites, this may feel like a lot, but it's actually very low risk. It's just email. So just send it, forget about it. You're acting in good faith. You're being a staffer. People also love to talk about themselves, and I think they would really be humbled and honored to have someone reach out to them and ask to meet for a coffee. And people like to help fellow staff. And so please try this out, use the email, and let me and Jennifer know how it goes. And I am going to turn it over to Jennifer to sort of crystallize all for you guys what you can do now.
Thank you, Charlotte. Oh my gosh, that was so amazing. I learned a lot reading all your sound bites, very inspirational. I love that you're lifting yourself up. And I look forward to sharing my sound bite that I presented at the Now conference. So let's spend a few minutes on what you can do to get started. Again, Charlotte and I recognize that we started our accountability partnership before our current normal of working from home. With this in mind, we outlined a few things that you can do now. So at the start of today's session, we asked you if anyone could identify an accountability partner. So I think we're going to launch the poll now to get a sense of how many folks can identify an accountability partner based on peer, trustworthy, and similar work styles. So if everyone can kindly answer the questions, that would be great. The question. This is very inspiring. Wow, I'm loving all the positive yeses. So it looks like the majority of us are participated. Thank you so much. And that number keeps climbing. We are at, let's see, 76% of us. So 3/4 of us can identify an accountability partner today. So with that in mind, we encourage you to make your ask today. For those of you, the small percent who did not identify anyone yet, you can get started by making a list of individuals who fit the criteria of trustworthy, peer, and similar work styles. We started an empowerment template plan. We shared and we started the empowerment template plan, and we did a one question. So this is a great thing to do with your accountability partner. So we encourage you after the Now conference to complete it and then to meet with your accountability partner and to share your responses. Charlotte went into detail about sound bites, and we heard some amazing examples, and there were so many, and we're sorry we didn't have time to share them all verbally. Some are in the chat, so please review them. Sound bites can be used to connect with colleagues formally and informally. Continue to develop and polish yours. Remember to use them generously with your colleagues. And then speaking of colleagues, we provided an optional activity suggesting to schedule coffee and expand your network. Charlotte and I want to hear about your experience. When you email me or Charlotte, consider it checking this action item off the list. Lastly, take time to review and polish your LinkedIn profile. Do you have a new project that you can add to your accomplishments section? Who can you ask for a recommendation from? Who can you write a recommendation for? When reviewing your LinkedIn profile, expand your network with new connections.
Right. So because our presentation was designed specifically for you guys, Berkeley staff, we wanted to highlight some resources. I'm sure you guys are like, your sound bites are on point. I'm sure you know these already, but we just wanted to highlight a few. So UC Extension Sponsor Tuition is a really amazing, amazing opportunity. One of the wonderful things is that the classes you take don't have to map to your job function. They have really amazing classes. I was reflecting a little bit and I remembered I had a colleague who was in student services and took the finance class sort of structure thing. She took all the finance program and then she transitioned to a career in finance at Berkeley. So the courses are really robust and they're just also really interesting, and the people you meet in class are really interesting. We also have LinkedIn learning classes on the UC Learning Center. These are really great to build soft skills. They have like goal setting, building resilience, managing up and across teams, conflict resolution. The great thing about these is they're really short. They're like 45 minutes, and sometimes they have worksheets you can download, which is great too to kind of keep up with your progress. I think you can tell Jennifer and I love a good worksheet. So it's always great to have those. And then also, the Grow Your Career page, the People and Culture page, specifically Grow Your Career. They've done a really wonderful job curating a lot of stuff. It's a little intense. There's a lot of information there. I would kind of recommend bookmarking it and coming back to it. But there's committees you can join, the Berkeley Staff Assembly, there's career mapping. And I suppose sort of the upside of this page is that you can really map it to what you want and tailor it, pick and choose to make it work for you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to just touch on some of our key takeaways.
This has been such a fun morning. Thank you again for being here. So as we wrap up, let's review a few key takeaways. So 1, be intentional yet nimble. We encourage you to use one or more of the tips and tools we shared today to steward your professional growth with intentionality. Remember, it is not business as usual during this time. Be compassionate and flexible with yourself and others. When we are nimble, we harness the power of starting where we are now, and remember to bloom where you are planted. 2, leverage your accountability partner and networks. We may spend more time together virtually these days, but we can still connect and work together to lift each other up. Remember, 76% of you have someone in mind for an accountability partner. Make that ask, use sound bites, ask colleagues for a coffee. We provided a suggested email, and keep me and Charlotte posted on your progress and success.
So I just talked about using Berkeley resources. Staff are one of our greatest resources, and we should really be leaning in and using each other and lifting each other up and helping each other. And also, using the UC Extension and these other things. It's so Berkeley. You have to be scrappy and kind of figure it out yourself. You have to be self-sufficient. There's a lot of stuff there, and hopefully we've given some sort of pointing you in certain directions so that you can build what you need to build for yourself. And then as another thing we really wanted to highlight today is leaning into where you are and celebrating your accomplishments. And one of the things we wanted to underscore is staff plays such an important role in Berkeley, and you and we are all part of that. We're a teaching and research enterprise. We have brilliant faculty. We have amazing students. But staff are key. We make this place run. We are what makes Berkeley exceptional, and you are part of what makes Berkeley exceptional. And we should all be lifting up our successes and staff successes as part of something that's key to Berkeley. And so with that, as we wrap up, we wanted to give a huge shout out to some of our colleagues who so generously listened to some very rough drafts of this presentation with their busy schedules. We really benefited from their insight, from their wisdom, from their suggestions, and this presentation is so much more polished and better because of their time and input. So with that, we're going to turn it to some Q&A, and we also just want to say thank you all for sharing some time with us today too. Yes, floor is open for questions. All right, well, one question, here we go. Should your accountability partner be in your same field or the same department? Jennifer, what do you think about that?
I think that's a great question. And I'm going to say no. It just happened coincidentally that literally coincidentally that Charlotte and I took the same class, and in that moment it was something in common. So I think having a common space is most important. So for Charlotte and I, it was a class. Maybe it's a committee. Berkeley has lots of committees, and we share space with many colleagues in committees. So maybe you share a committee in common. So that would be my suggestion, is it doesn't have to be someone on your team. I think it can be someone in a shared space. So you have this natural, organic relationship. And do you want to add on that, Charlotte?
Yeah, I think that it's really important that you are able to find someone who, as Jennifer sort of very eloquently said, can hold up a mirror to you, where you can be vulnerable enough to really share real things that are happening that are challenging or that you're really proud of, and have that person be able to celebrate them with you. And so I think one of the most important things is it really needs to be someone that you don't feel like you're in competition with, and that you feel like you're invested in their success and they're invested in your success, and that you're sort of building some things together. Other people are asking, what are some tips to finding an accountability partner being new at Cal? I guess I can start. I would, there's some great new staff, what's it called? I'm forgetting what it's called. It's like there's a new staff committee that people can join. I would look to see if there are kind of like staff social activities or ways that you can, New Professionals Network. Thanks, Julia. There are certain ways to network. Someone else is saying go to Berkeley Staff Assembly meetings. I would also sign up for the Berkeley Staff Assembly listserv. They have great information, and it's a great way to sort of see people's names. And I would also encourage people to be bold and to reach out to people whose names you see on email. So it's, Mike is saying, I found a great accountability partner in the mentor program, the Berkeley Staff Assembly, and I chose a person who was the most unlike me, and that was super helpful. And so, yeah, I think part of it also is thinking about what are the ways that you want to grow, and is there someone who can help push you and grow in ways that kind of take you to the edge of being a little uncomfortable, but don't push you too far out of your comfort zone so that you kind of freak out. Let's see. So yes, Berkeley Staff Assembly is a great way to kind of get looped in. Is there a preferred frequency for meeting with your accountability partner? And someone else asked, how do you structure your conversations with your accountability partner? Jennifer, do you want to start that?
Yes. So we met monthly, and we actually started with the empowerment plan. So we had quite an extensive template that we used that I had from a previous class. And so we worked on that together, and then we talked about our responses. So if you look at the empowerment template, it has like some suggestions about who do you know. And then once we answered the questions together, we decided what could we do to like leverage the opportunity. So for example, when we were expanding our networks and trying to get out of our comfort zone and reaching out to folks who seemed intimidating because of their role or their time on campus. We would cheerleader each other and like basically say, okay, by the next meeting, we're going to report back on our conversation with Oski Bear. So it was really about holding each other accountable. And I appreciate Mike lifting that it doesn't have to be someone that is like similar to you in work styles. For Charlotte and I, that's what worked best for us, but that doesn't have to be how you roll. And then in terms of like a checklist, we did not necessarily have a checklist for working with each other. We really talked in length, like how we wanted to grow. Like we wanted to like visualize where we saw ourselves in 6 months. Like, is it working on a project? Is it connecting with someone? And now that we do it, we continue to like share our accomplishments. And yes, we do share like we're having an opportunity for growth. Like, how do I navigate this situation? So there really is no subject that we aren't willing to talk about. And that has evolved over time in trust. So I do think consistency is really important, like to meet with them on a regular basis. And it's different, in my opinion, from a mentor-mentee relationship. I have mentors, but it feels more formal. It feels like I'm reporting out versus, and more coaching. And with Charlotte, it's a combination of all of those things, but it feels, for me, it feels very natural, and I feel like I don't have to perform, if that makes any sense. I feel like I don't have to report out and that I'm going to be having to show some amazing progress, because anything that I've done, no matter how small, is success. And I appreciate when Charlotte celebrates my successes with me. So I might have gone a little off the deep end on that one.
Well, I would also just add that that's sort of where the intentionality piece of our the title of the presentation comes from, is that when we met, we were very intentional about next time we meet, we want to have done X. And it doesn't have to be both people having done the same thing, but it could be, Jennifer, next time I meet, I want to have completed half of this project, and Charlotte, I want to have, I can say I want to have emailed 2 people for a coffee. And so it's really about, progress and moving forward, but progress for each person is not the same, right? And so it's recognizing that you're sort of both moving forward, but maybe the steps that each person takes there are not the same, but the path is forward, I guess, if that makes sense. Does anyone else have questions? Looking through to see if there are any others. Let's see. Questions. Oh, what was the class that we took? What was it called?
It was, I was just looking it up. It was Power and Influence Women in Leadership. So UC Berkeley Extension has a leadership class that's called, it's like a series, Women in Leadership. And there's 3 classes that you can take, and then you get a certification of Women in Leadership. So the one we took was Power, Influence, Women in Leadership. And that series, I've taken 2 of the 3 series, is a really inspirational series. So I do recommend it.
Struggle with my inbox for 2 divisions. How do we take advantage of UC Extension's sponsored tuition? So Eugene Whitlock has been really wonderful about lifting up the sponsored tuition program. Oh, thanks, Amy, for dropping it in chat. So it's really easy in that you fill out a form that's a DocuSign, and you put your supervisor, I would suggest giving your supervisor a heads up just so it doesn't get lost in their inbox, because as soon as you put their email on the DocuSign, they automatically get the DocuSign. But once they sign off on it, it just gets routed directly to UC Extension, and then you automatically get enrolled. So there's no tuition reimbursement. You just are able to sign up and take the class. And someone else had asked, how do you get approval for taking a class that's not in your job function? From what I understand, you don't need approval anymore. It's any class that's, I mean, the thing is your supervisor has to sign off on it, but it's any class offered in UC Extension you can take. And also I think that, Eugene Whitlock has made it pretty clear that he wants staff to use this as a professional development opportunity. And he has really robust language about, making sure that staff take the time. And then also I think, if I'm remembering clearly from his email, that it doesn't have to map to your job function. And I also remember this was, Chancellor Christ had mentioned this too. One of the main reasons that there was a difference, that the UC Extension program changed, is because you used to have to take a class that mapped to your job function, but then she had lunch with a bunch of staff who worked in Cal Dining, and they were like, hey, we'd like to take other classes that don't map to our job function. And a kind of a light bulb went off, and it was clear that everyone can benefit if the program was restructured a bit. So any other questions as we work to wrap things up? Right. Jennifer, do you want to wrap things up?
Wow, already. This was so great. Thank you everyone for your amazing questions. So we want to thank you again for joining us this morning. We know that you had many great options to choose from. I believe there are 5 every hour. It's been our pleasure to share space with you. We appreciate your participation and time. We look forward to staying in touch and hearing about your progress and successes. So please email and LinkedIn both of us. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day at the NOW conference. And I'm going to pass it to Julia to close out this session.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for a great presentation, and thanks to everybody who attended. So thanks, everybody, again. See you soon, and stick around for the rest of the day.